Bittersweet love.
But he wants to commit suicide, for God's sake, Henry. He's our son, and we need to help him.
I could hear Mom's conversation with Dad because she left the door slightly ajar, probably because she wanted to show me that she cared for me, and that she would do anything in her power to make my life easy. I was never one of the cowards. I would never have written a suicide note and hid it under my duvet, but I was tired. I couldn't take the weight of my own body anymore. I had never imagined my life like this, stuck in a wheelchair. My parents didn't know my pain. Nobody did. It was so hard to watch the world in its motion from my big window and not be a part of it. It felt as if life had pressed the pause button for me. Every fiber of my being longed for the freedom and mobility I once took for granted. Bitterness and frustration gnawed at me, consuming my thoughts and fueling a deep resentment toward the life I was leading. As I watched people effortlessly navigate their surroundings, a mix of envy and despair washed over me. Their bodies moved with ease, while mine remained confined within the steel frame of my wheelchair. The weight of my reality bore down on me, a burden that seemed impossible to escape. Every day was a battle, not just with the physical limitations that defined me, but with the emotional turmoil that was also there, and there was nobody who would understand. I was left alone with the house helpers when my parents went outside for their daily meetings. I was rich, yet so poor. I lost all of my friends and loved ones, and I had to stare at the big walls of our bungalow and watch the hours just tick by. I despised the constant reminders of what I'd lost, the simple joys and experiences that were now beyond my reach. My heart ached for the freedom to walk, to feel the ground beneath my feet, and to regain the independence that had been cruelly snatched away. "I don't know why he's behaving like that, Laura," I heard Dad responding. "We gave him everything. The best doctors, the best physiotherapists in all of London. Literally everything he wanted to do and try out, we made possible. He should be grateful for it, and this is what he does in return, writes a suicide note."
Alex didn't choose to live like this, Henry. Mom sounded like she was about to cry. He's sick of it. We have every luxury in the world, but don't you get it when you see his face? He's so lonely. The incident didn't only take his ability to walk, but it took his life from him. The life he used to have. Henry, his friends, college, his favorite sport, his social life, all of it.
Most lads his age don't have half the opportunities he does. He should be thankful, and I'm tired of seeing him like that. It hurts, and I feel helpless, Dad said.
Money can't buy everything, Henry. Just look at his deteriorating health. It's been gnawing at me inside, and I've talked to the doctors, and they think he needs full-time assistance now. Leaving him all on his own is just gonna make him worse. I'm thinking about keeping a full-time nurse for him. They did send a couple of names from the hospital, Mom said. The last thing I wanted was for someone to be around me these days. I knew how it would make me feel. Insecure. They'll walk and I won't. They'll have to help me with everything that I used to do on my own. It would only make it worse. But this time, Mom wouldn't listen. "Fine, Laura, do what you have to," was Dad's reply. I could hear him stomping down the stairs of the hallway, off to one of his business meetings in a posh limo. The next day, I was looking at an old picture of mine from a hike when I heard the door knock. "Come in, please." I put it aside and turned my wheelchair towards the door. "Alex, meet Joe Dawson," Mom said. "He's gonna be here 24/7 now, for anything you need or want."
"I can manage. You didn't have to bother someone else." I frowned, and then glanced at Joe. He was handsome, exuding an air of confidence. Standing at an above-average height, he possessed a well-built physique that hinted at his active and healthy lifestyle. His sharp jawline and piercing blue eyes drew my immediate attention, capturing my gaze. There was a charm in his smile, which revealed a set of perfectly aligned, pearly white teeth. "Hello, Mr. Alex. It's a pleasure." He shook my hand. Likewise, I must say. I was still staring at him. He wore a crisp button-down shirt with gray pants. His muscles were visible in his clothing, making him look even more handsome. I could immediately think of him as the sexiest nurse the hospital had. I snorted at my own thought and then shook my head. His light brown hair, styled in a slightly tousled manner, added to his appeal. It framed his face with a touch of youthful charm, enhancing his rugged features.
"Right, so you two get along. I'll ask the chauffeur to bring your luggage in your room, Mr. Dawson. You can go through the medical files on the table. They'll help you get to know Alex's needs and condition better."
Mom smiled at us and left. I could already feel the tension in the air. He wanted to talk, but something held him back. You don't need my permission to speak, in case Mom didn't tell you that, I smirked. Oh, you're a funny man, Mr. Alex, he said while going through my files. You can also cut that formality. I prefer being called Alex, I said. Right, as you wish, he smiled faintly. Also, I won't bother you much. You're free to do whatever you want. Mom and Dad are just showing that they care. I'm fine on my own, to be honest. I looked away. Mr. Alex, I'm here for a responsibility, and I won't let them down. They've trusted me with your care, and I will do what I have to do for you, whether you like it or not, Joe replied. I looked at him for a second. No one had ever shown the interest that he was showing. Despite mentioning my boundaries, he preferred to care for me. I was shocked and humbled. I smiled and nodded gently. Well, it says here in the schedule that it's time for your lunch, Joe smiled. What do you prefer, Chinese, Italian? Oh, I could even make you lasagna. I'm known for my lasagna in the family. Special recipe. You should try it. I don't know, whatever you deem best, I replied half-heartedly. I'd never seen someone so excited around me, someone so filled with life. His big smile forced me to smile as well. Lasagna it is, sire, he gleamed. Oh my god, this is so delicious. I hadn't tasted a better lasagna. I told you, it's my specialty, he laughed. This is amazing, like truly, I licked my fingers. You know, reminds me of a cafe, Ailanto in Italy. I went there on this trip with my friends, and they had like the best cuisine. You really liked exploring, didn't you? He looked down at my feet. You must miss it. I looked at his face and then turned away. How could I ever explain to him in words how badly I wanted to walk again, and how much I missed exploring? I mean, I saw pictures of you and your friends. You've been to so many places. You know, must be nice having such beautiful memories to cherish, right? He smiled nervously. Yeah, I sighed. You'll be able to do it all again. Don't give up, Alex. We're with you. I'm with you. He held my hand gently and looked into my eyes. There was something about him I just couldn't resist. I wanted to be closer. He eventually picked up the napkin from the table, got closer to me where I could feel his breath on my face, and wiped a bit of food from my lips. We both looked into each other's eyes and smiled. As the days passed, I got to know Joe better. He was the first person I asked for in the morning, beyond his physical attributes. Joe possessed an engaging personality that just drew others toward him. Even the other house helpers were always happy around him. He had a warm and just inviting presence, making people feel comfortable in his company. His genuine interest in others shone through in his attentive listening and thoughtful responses during conversations. And he had stories to tell me from all over the world, places he'd worked and people he'd met through the years. He didn't seek attention or strive to be the center of the room. Instead, he had a knack for making others feel valued and heard. He was so different from the others. His friendly and approachable nature allowed for effortless connections and left a lasting impression on those who crossed paths with him. He had a genuine concern for my well-being and was always willing to lend a helping hand in anything I wanted to do. In a world that often seemed fast-paced and superficial, Joe's presence was a refreshing reminder of authenticity and genuine connection for me. He had an undeniable charm that went beyond his physical appearance, captivating me with his genuine warmth and approachability. It was his combination of attractive features, engaging personality, and just sincere character that made Joe hold a very special place in my heart. And one fine evening, I decided to say it to him. Is the tea good? Joe asked me as we sat on the patio with our tea. Warm enough? It's perfect, thanks, I said. You don't have to say that, it's a part of my job. I can't compromise on anything, Joe said. Is that really so? Do you care for me because it's your job and that's about it? I asked. Well, no, I didn't mean it that way. Of course I care for you. And no, money has nothing to do with it, Joe replied nervously. I sipped my tea. Don't worry, you don't have to put up with me for that long. I hope that my time comes sooner. I'm tired. How dare you? Joe tried to control his pitch. Do you have any idea how much it hurts me? Don't say that again, please. But why? You're not related to me. I looked away from him. I am. I really like you, and I don't like hearing things like that about you, he said all of a sudden. What? I said, feeling overjoyed inside. How can you like someone who's a burden on you? Come on, look at me, Joe. Stop, just stop, Joe said. I have people who interest me, Mr. Alex Rivers, but in my position, I don't get to pursue them. What? I said again. I was the happiest inside. Things were going the way I wanted them to. I don't know what you're talking about, I lied. You don't? Nope. I shook my head, just to tease him. You really don't, Mr. Alex? Joe said in an authoritative tone. I really don't, I said again. Joe's face grimaced in frustration, his eyes casting skyward like they were searching for help from an uncaring universe. Christ, you're as thick as it gets, he eventually said and grabbed my face in both hands. May I? He whispered. I couldn't resist and let my lips touch his immediately. Come here, you dummy, I whispered. We paused for a brief moment to look each other in the eyes. Oh, I love you, and it flowed seamlessly from my mouth. I love you too, he said. I was happy after so long. Suddenly, we heard the thunder and it started drizzling. Neither of us wanted to go back inside the house. As the rain began to fall, its gentle touch on my face merged with the warmth of Joe's lips pressed against mine. In that moment, everything else faded away, and the world became a blur of passion and desire. The raindrops grew more insistent, a steady rhythm that mirrored the pounding of my heart. With each kiss, the rain became a symphony, adding magic to our connection. It felt as if nature itself was celebrating our union, casting its blessings upon our embrace. As the rain showered us, our bodies pressed closer together as he shifted my wheelchair closer to him, seeking solace and shelter in each other's arms. The taste of rain mingled with the sweetness of our shared desire. The world around us ceased to exist as we surrendered to the intensity of the moment. As our lips finally parted, a shared smile emerged, mirroring the joy that filled our hearts. The rain continued to fall, but it no longer mattered. In that moment, all that mattered was the connection we'd forged. I really liked him. It felt like love. I was in love.
Where is it? I can't afford to lose this one. Henry gave it to me on our wedding anniversary, Mom said, stomping into my room.
What? Look, calm down, Mom. What happened? I asked.
Honey, I lost my diamond necklace. I have a dinner and I wanted to wear it,
she wailed. Well, it must be. There's no one else that goes in there except you, Mom. Only you have the keys.
No, I had to use the duplicate ones. The real keys are missing too, she said.
Well, that's odd now, I said.
Somebody's stolen it, I know,
she said in an angry tone. Why would someone do that, Mom? I said, laughing. Dad entered the room and started asking about why Mom was creating a scene.
Call Joe, she yelled.
What? Are you out of your mind, Laura? Dad said. Mom, seriously, this is so wrong, I yelled.
I said call him!
She was not gonna calm down. Joe was summoned into my room, who was as confused as I was. Joe, never mind her behavior, she loved the necklace so much, I tried to comfort Joe. He grew nervous when I mentioned about the necklace. He looked around and then looked at me for a brief second. He was scared. Sire, I found this in his luggage. A house helper came into my room, holding Mom's necklace and the original keys to the locker. Joe's throat tightened, making it difficult for him to speak. He mustered the courage to address the room, his voice trembling with remorse. He admitted his wrongdoing, offering no excuses for his actions, fully aware of the pain he'd caused to our family. I couldn't believe it. Like, how could he? There must have been a misunderstanding, but Joe's face told me otherwise. It can't be. Joe, tell them. I looked at him.
You're a gold digger. I can't believe I entrusted my son's health to you. A person like you does not deserve forgiveness. You must leave, Mom shouted.
No, let him speak for God's sake. Don't just send him away, I wailed. No, she's right, Alex. We can't keep Joe. Dad looked at me. But as I watched Joe struggle to find the right words, a profound sense of disappointment settled with me. I couldn't comprehend how he'd let us down, how he'd jeopardized the trust we'd built between us. My mind whirled with conflicting emotions, torn between the love I still felt and the deep sense of betrayal that had shattered our bond. Please, I'm so happy right now. I love him, I whispered to myself. In that moment, I realized that I had to find a way to navigate through the tangle of emotions and somehow make sense of the situation. I knew that forgiveness would not come easily, but I was determined to seek understanding and clarity. I wanted to believe that Joe's actions were born out of a momentary lapse in judgment, that there was still a chance for redemption and maybe growth. In the days that followed, I grappled with the embarrassment that colored our relationship. I questioned my own judgment, wondering how I could have been blindsided by someone I thought I knew so well. Yet I understood the complexity of human nature, the capacity for both good and flawed choices. I still wanted him back at the house, Mom had tried to keep a new nurse, but I had refused harshly. I didn't come out of the room a lot after Joe had gone. Whenever I saw his room, it just made me teary. He didn't call or text me. He was embarrassed, I guess, but wasn't our love greater than all of this? Didn't he reciprocate the same feelings that I had for him? I hoped he missed me the same way I did and that someday he'd come back to me. My birthday approached and Mom and Dad decided to take me to my favorite Italian restaurant downtown. I didn't want to go out, but they insisted. They wanted me to forget Joe and start living my own life. I couldn't help it. Everything reminded me of him. We sat at a corner table. The restaurant was crowded, and the noise of continuous chatter was already hurting my head. To my great surprise, there, amidst the dimly lit ambiance, I spotted Joe sitting at a table, engrossed in conversation with another man. They leaned in close, sharing smiles and laughter, and that felt all too intimate. The sight struck me like a punch to the gut, stealing the air from my lungs. Mom looked at me anxiously. A whirlwind of emotions consumed me in an instant. Betrayal coursed through my veins. I was hurt and confused at the same time. Questions flooded my mind, each one more agonizing than the last. Had I been blind to this connection? How could Joe do this to me? Why hadn't he mentioned someone, and if not, why was he so quick to move on? I sat frozen in my wheelchair, feeling like an outsider intruding upon a secret world that I had believed belonged solely to us. Anguish and anger battled within me as I struggled to comprehend the depth of Joe's deception. It felt as though the ground beneath me had shifted, shattering the trust I'd worked so hard to rebuild for his sake. This was the second time he had hurt me. A torrent of insecurities washed over me. I questioned my worth, wondering if I had somehow fallen short, unable to satisfy Joe's needs and desires. My heart ached with the fear of being replaced, of being cast aside for someone new and unknown. Was I not enough? Why did he do this? I whispered to Mom, who was still confused to what was going on.
Alex, honey, we can just do takeout. I guess we should go home. You're not feeling well, Mom said anxiously. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of loss. The future I'd envisioned with him shattered like a fragile glass, leaving behind fragments of shattered dreams. The pain was raw and visceral, threatening to overwhelm me as I grappled with the reality of Joe's infidelity. I started to feel the anger boiling when I saw the other guy hold Joe's hand and kiss it gently. I was afraid to hate Joe, but it had come to that point. As my gaze remained fixed upon them, my emotions recoiled between anger and heartbreak. I wanted to confront Joe, to demand answers, but something stopped me. I hesitated, afraid of what I might uncover, afraid of the further damage that could be inflicted upon my already wounded heart. I turned away with teary eyes. I couldn't bear to see their connection any longer. In the days that followed, I grappled with a mixture of pain and resilience. I knew that I deserved better than someone who could just so callously betray my trust. It would take time, but I vowed to heal, to rebuild my life without Joe, and to rediscover my own worth. Just the day that I felt I could do without him, he came back into my life. It was raining heavily that day, and the house helper told me that there was someone at the door. Due to the poor weather, I told them to bring them inside, unaware of whom I'd just summoned. I saw Joe walking into the hall, drenched in rain and shivering. I forgot everything the moment I saw him. I felt the most paralyzed I ever had then. I couldn't even reach for a towel and wrap that around him. He walked up to me and fell onto my feet. I immediately asked the house helpers to bring towels and to turn the heating up. I don't know where to start. Joe's voice trembled. Why? Just why? I started crying. Shh, please. I know you saw me that day with Nathan in the restaurant. I didn't want to be there, Alex. I've been trying to get out of this toxic relationship of mine. He's very abusive and I owe him money. I can't repay the amount yet and I have to put up with him. I can't even begin to explain my plan, and I know you don't want to believe me right away because of what I did. Trust me, I was forced. I stole the necklace so I could repay Nathan and then be with you forever. I know it was wrong. It was so wrong. I shouldn't have. Joe started crying. Please, I believe you. I couldn't see his pain. You could have talked to me about it. I trusted you, Joe, and I've been in a lot of pain. Please, I'm here to beg for your forgiveness. Help me. I want to stay with you. I love you, he cried. I will help you,
Please, go change first. I'll ask them to give you warm clothes, I said.
Alex, I'm sorry again, he said with teary eyes. I'd never seen him this unhappy, and it killed me inside. I decided to talk to Mom and Dad about it. We're sorry. We didn't know he was in such a tough situation, Mom said later when I explained everything to her. I told you he couldn't do it intentionally. I want something from you guys in return now, I said.
Anything you want,
Mom and Dad said at the same time. I want to take Joe on a trip to Italy. You can clear his debt with Nathan in the meantime. I really want to spend some time with him, and this will help me to forget all the pain that I've been through. Also, you don't have to worry. He'll be with me, and he can take care of my health like no one else, I finished. But Alex, Mom said.
Don't, Laura, let him go, Dad smiled at me. I'll arrange the tickets. You guys leave in 2 days.
As the plane touched down in Italy, I couldn't contain my excitement. I was in my favorite place with my favorite person. The anticipation of exploring the country filled my heart with joy. Stepping onto Italian soil, I immediately sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The air felt different, carrying a hint of romance and adventure. Joe held my hand tightly. This is going to be the best time you've ever had, I said to him. As Joe and I ventured into the bustling streets, I couldn't help but be enchanted by the sights and sounds around me, the vibrant color of the buildings, adorned with blooming flower pots, which brought a smile to my face. Everything felt better with him around me. We explored Rome, our footsteps echoing through ancient ruins as we marveled at the grandeur of the Colosseum. In that moment, time stood still, and it was as if the world had faded away, leaving only the two of us, lost in a world of our own. The history and the beauty of the city served as a backdrop to the love story we were weaving together. In Florence, we wandered hand in hand, our fingers gently interlaced as we admired the masterpieces that adorned the city. We shared stolen glances, our hearts beating in sync with the rhythm of the city. I kissed him at every one of my favorite places. As the sun set over the Tuscan countryside, we found ourselves immersed in a sea of vineyards and rolling hills. We reveled in the simple pleasures, sharing glasses of velvety red wine and indulging in delectable Italian cuisine. The lasagna was good, but not as good as Joe's. Each bite I took with him was a taste of heaven, each sip a toast to the love we'd found in each other. During our last night there, we sat under the stars and drank wine together. Did you ever imagine this? Joe said, playing with my hair. What? I chuckled. This is like a fairy tale for me. I still can't believe it, he said. You can. Not everybody's hero is in a wheelchair, I giggled. Oh, please, he smiled. Thank you, Alex, for saving me in every way that a person can be saved. Thank you, Joe, for loving me in every way a person can be loved, I whispered back. He gently picked me up from the wheelchair and lay me beside him, holding my face in his arms. You're a pretty handsome guy, he smiled, his smile a curve that graced his lips with an irresistible charm. He had the power to light up the darkest of corners of my world. It was a smile that could melt the hearts and bring joy to even the gloomiest of days. Each time he smiled, it was as if the world around us faded away, leaving only the two of us in a moment of pure enchantment. Well then, maybe I should date some more, I joked. Yeah, right, you're booked now, he said, kissing my cheek gently. Don't leave again, I said, looking into his eyes. Shh, he said, and touched his lips to mine. Immediately I held his waist. He felt warm, and his lips tasted of sea salt. It was all so perfect, just the way I'd imagined. In the simplicity of those moments, as we lay side by side, I marveled at the essence of his beauty. His presence had a calming effect on me, like a reassuring anchor amidst life's storms. With him, I felt safe, understood, and unconditionally loved. We kissed and sat under the stars until the sun rose, with a promise of staying together forever. The end. Thanks for watching, and consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force. And stay wholesome.